Well, let's get you more perspective now on South Sudan's latest peace deal. I'm joined in studio by Dr. Hassan Kaneje. He's the director of the Horn Institute here in Kenya. Dr. Kaneje, thank you for joining us on Africa Live. First off, can you talk us through the main points, though, of the latest South Sudanese peace deal?
First of all, it is important to note that independent South Sudan has known more war than peace in its history of independence. And it comes at a particularly important time because of the devastation and destruction that have been caused by the civil war. Now, this peace deal is particularly different in a number of ways. The first one is it's organic. And as President Kiir himself alluded to it, previous peace deals were perceived to have been forced on the parties. And so there's a likelihood that actually this peace deal is going to last. Number two, the parties have agreed to share power, in which there's going to be a government or cabinet of about 35 ministers. 20 of them are supposed to go to the government, President Salva Kiir, and 10 Riek Machar, and then 5 the rest. There's also a fairly large legislature composed of about 550 parliamentarians. Now, other important aspects are establishment of a permanent ceasefire to be monitored by the African Union and the AU forces. So those are key elements of the peace deal that may actually make it survive.
You do mention, though, that the difference between this peace deal and previous peace deals is that this one is organic and not forced. But obviously, many are going to be asking, several peace deals have been signed. Many of those peace deals have been reneged upon. And there are concerns now that the opposition factions may not be in control of their forces. Do you think this particular peace deal will hold this time around?
I think there is a general recognition by the parties involved that the current hiding stalemate is not sustainable. Both parties stand a lot to lose. There is a lot of international pressure with regard to sanctions, a threat of sanctions, that most of these parties, I think, they are at a point where they are actually going to commit to the peace deal. Now, there are, of course, other parties which feel left out, like the National Salvation Front, which is advocating for a federal system. But by and large, those tend to be much smaller parties with a lot less following than, let's say, the main parties in the theater.
When you look at the humanitarian situation, there's been a major humanitarian crisis arising out of the South Sudanese civil conflict there. So do you think this is going to pave the way, though, for international organizations to actually get into South Sudan and sort out the humanitarian crisis? Or what's going to happen now? Is there going to be a path there for international organizations?
Yes, it is, and this actually included in the peace deal. In part of the framework provides for access to humanitarian organizations, in part because there's extensive suffering. About a third of the population is displaced currently in South Sudan. And so we are looking forward that if the peace deal has to hold and the provision on humanitarian access is maintained, then there's going to be a whole lot more help and support coming to the people of South Sudan.
All right, Dr. Hassan Kaneje, we'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me
On the program.